Did you know the most painful moment for a narcissist is not when they are abandoned, but when they are forced to face the truth that they themselves destroyed the only real love they ever had in their life? Jung once said that the shadow hidden deep within us is the very part we refuse to acknowledge. Yet it is what controls us most powerfully. And for the narcissist, that shadow is emptiness, the fear of exposure, and the inability to love with sincerity. In today's video, we will decode the narcissist's breaking point, the moment when the mask falls, when their control no longer works, and when they realize they did not lose an emotional supply, but genuine love, something they will never get back. Through the lens of Jungian analysis, we will see clearly why narcissists are not only victims of their own self-deception, but also the architects of their self-destruction, destroying the very chance to ever be authentic human beings. So, what happens in their psyche when this truth finally hits? How can your silence and your letting go have the power to shatter their entire false world? And what lesson did Jung want us to take away in order to heal and step into freedom? Stay until the end of this video because you will not only understand how the narcissist destroys love, but also discover how you, as an empath, can transform pain into strength and step out of their shadow to reclaim yourself. Let me paint you a picture. Picture a master puppeteer who has spent years perfecting their craft, pulling invisible strings, orchestrating every emotion, every reaction around them. The narcissist lives in this carefully constructed theater, where they are both the director and the star. But what happens when the audience stops watching? What happens when the very person they've been performing for simply walks away? This is where Jung's understanding of the shadow becomes crucial. You see, the narcissist's entire identity is built on what Jung called the persona, eine, that polished mask we show the world. But underneath that mask lies their shadow, the parts of themselves they cannot bear to see. For the narcissist, this shadow contains their deepest terror, that they are fundamentally unlovable, empty, and powerless. Think about it this way. The narcissist doesn't just want your attention or admiration. They need it like oxygen, because without it, they're forced to confront the void within themselves. When you first met them, they likely seemed magnetic, almost intoxicating. That's because they were reflecting back to you exactly what you needed to see. Jung called this projection. They became your perfect mirror, not out of love, but out of desperate necessity. But here's what's truly heartbreaking about this dynamic. While you were falling in love with what felt like your soulmate, they were falling in love with their own reflection in your eyes. They weren't seeing you as a separate person with your own needs, dreams, and worth. You were simply the perfect canvas for their projection, the ideal audience for their performance. Now, let's talk about what happens when this carefully constructed world begins to crumble. The narcissist's breaking point isn't dramatic in the way you might expect. It's not a moment of screaming or violence, though those can certainly happen. No, their true breaking point is much quieter, much more devastating. It happens when they realize that their greatest source of validation, you, has seen through the mask and chosen to love yourself instead. Jung understood that our greatest growth comes through individuation, HAA, the process of becoming our authentic selves. For the empath, this journey often begins with recognizing that the love they've been giving so freely has been feeding someone else's false self. The moment you stop trying to fix them, stop trying to prove your worth to them, stop dancing to their emotional manipulation, that's when their world begins to collapse. You see, the narcissist has spent so long avoiding their shadow that they've forgotten how to access their authentic self. They've become so skilled at manipulation that they've lost touch with genuine emotion. So when you withdraw your energy, when you stop playing their game, they experience something Jung called ego dissolution. The false self they've built begins to crumble, and underneath, there's nothing they recognize as real. This is why your silence is so powerful. It's not cruel or vindictive. It's simply the natural consequence of choosing authenticity over illusion. When you stop responding to their provocations, stop trying to explain yourself, stop giving them the emotional reactions they crave, you're essentially turning off the spotlight that has been feeding their false persona. But here's what makes this even more profound. In those quiet moments after you've walked away, The narcissist is left alone with their shadow for perhaps the first time in years, maybe decades. They're forced to confront the question they've been running from their entire life. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I'm not performing? For most of us, this would be an opportunity for growth, for what Jung called the integration of the shadow. But for the narcissist, this confrontation is unbearable. Instead of facing their emptiness and beginning the hard work of building authentic self-worth, they often double down. They seek new sources of validation, new audiences for their performance, new people to project their idealized self onto. This is why they often seem to move on so quickly after a relationship ends. It's not because they didn't love you. In their own limited way, they may have. It's because they cannot survive without constant external validation. The silence you leave behind echoes with the truth they cannot face, that they destroyed something real in pursuit of something false. Jung believed that every crisis contains the seeds of transformation. For the empath who has loved a narcissist, this crisis, this moment of seeing clearly, becomes the beginning of true self-reclamation. You begin to understand that the love you gave was real, even if it wasn't received authentically. You begin to see that your empathy, your ability to love deeply, is not a weakness to be exploited but a strength to be honored. The path forward, according to Jung, involves what he called individuation, AI, becoming who you truly are, separate from anyone else's projections or expectations. This means learning to love yourself with the same intensity you once directed towards someone who couldn't receive it. It means recognizing that your worth was never dependent on their approval or their ability to love you back. As you withdraw your energy and attention, as you choose silence over explanation, you're not being cruel. You're simply refusing to participate in a dynamic that requires you to diminish yourself. You're choosing to love from a place of wholeness rather than emptiness, to give from abundance rather than need. The narcissist's greatest fear is abandonment, but their greatest tragedy is that they abandon themselves long before anyone else does. They trade their authentic self for a false persona so convincing that even they begin to believe it's real. And in doing so, they lose the very thing they're seeking, the ability to love and be loved authentically. Your healing journey begins the moment you stop trying to love them into wholeness and start focusing on your own individuation. It begins when you understand that walking away isn't giving up on love. It's choosing to honor the real love that lives within you. It's recognizing that true love can only exist between two authentic selves, and as long as they remain committed to their false persona, authentic love remains impossible. Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. For those who have loved a narcissist, this privilege often comes at a high price, the pain of recognizing that the person you loved was largely an illusion. But within that pain lies your power. Within that recognition lies your freedom, and within your silence lies the seed of your own authentic becoming. The narcissist may never face their shadow. They may never choose the difficult path of authentic self-discovery, but you can. You can choose to integrate your own shadow, to love your own imperfections, to become whole, not in relationship to them, but in relationship to yourself. This is your gift to yourself, and ultimately, your gift to the world. The gift of an empath who has learned to love from strength rather than neediness, from wholeness rather than woundedness. This is how you step out of their shadow and into your own light. This is how love, real love, finally comes home to you. If this resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might be experiencing similar challenges. Join our growing community of thoughtful individuals, exploring psychology, consciousness, and personal growth by subscribing to ThinkDeep and enabling notifications. Remember, where you are right now isn't your final chapter. It's the starting point for becoming who you're truly meant to be.